Today. Issue. On this is more so just but when y'all time to get people in. I said I gotta live, I gotta work, I gotta grind, I gotta shine. I was trying to use my hotspot on my work phone, and it's not doing that. I said I gotta live, I gotta work, I gotta grind. Yeah. It used to just be you can't do it on your phone? On this one, for some reason, no. I don't know why. What happens when you try to do it? It just says that I need to contact the service thing. It's freaking weird. You sure you got it as part of your plan? Definitely used to be. So I don't know how that works. Because usually when it's blocked, it's something like that. Right. If it gives you like a carrier type of thing. Right. So I just use that. What's that? I'm trying to make me relog into the chat. We don't sleep because close your eyes.
How y'all doing? What's going on? What's power?
Hey, I keep it real like milk.
Can y'all see us? What it look like?
Right.
Somebody let us know something.
Kiara Robb said the internet is crashing. We better see what's going on.
I'm somewhere in the middle, barely hood with no pension for snitching. Young man with an old man's vision that simply sees shit different. Fuck what I'm on before, and my words are my ammunition. Y'all fire rubber bullets while I load these politics, man. The beating with these fucking pretenders got me pretentious. But I know I gotta stay humble and not forget my mission. I speak the vision of men and women that came before us. It says that we make these moves together, they can't ignore.
It's better now? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. It's just been acting strange on us. Technology's being a pain in the butt. It's the biggest. Trying to think of what else we could do.
See with caution as I slowly approach. Take notes because I know.
Local area connection.
When you need them, they go. Make the most of it now. Keep your mind heavy. Talk
You seeing everything still in there? Okay. So we still looking good? Or are we just?
I mean, better.
Okay. That's good. It's hard to tell, man. Being a pain in the butt. Are you still? What are you connected to?
My own stuff.
Oh, you're on the phone. Okay. I didn't know if you was. I didn't know if you was connected to the other Wi-Fi. Okay. That is strange. Is there a way to try to run two Wi-Fis at the same time?
You can do two separate networks, yeah.
How do you do that? To where they'll like bounce off each other, so that way one.
No, not like that. No.
That would be nice. Let me see. Has anybody ever heard of a concept of like Wi-Fi messing up at night or something, or maybe on weekends or something? That's very weird. Like, because I don't know what happened.
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, can y'all hear us? Sorry, things is acting a little stupid right now. And we just don't know why. Let's see.
We may be moving location.
There we go. Now we're back. That's weird. Okay. All right, I think we're back. That says we're 10 out of 10. That's weird. Still got somebody watching on Twitch. I'm sorry for the connectivity issues that's going on. But I guess it's because we keep ending up talking about like serious subjects and stuff. It's weird. Wondering what's going on. Right. That's how it be. That's really how it be. There we go. I think we're back. Yeah, I think we're back. At least for now. All right. So for as long as we've got it, let's go ahead and get into this. So what were your thoughts on it? Like everything that occurred?
So I've seen a lot of things on the internet where basically Travis Scott is to blame for what's going on at these events.
Right.
And it seems like the narrative is just simply that everything as it relates to these types of situations is Travis Scott's fault.
Right.
One, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Just because as being an artist, I know the logistics of how background things go. And I know that artists don't dictate how shows are run in the general sense.
No.
Like there's a whole different set of people who are responsible for those kind of things. And I hate that not enough of that part of this isn't being mentioned. It's simply, oh, it's Travis Scott's show.
Yeah.
And it's more like Travis Scott is the featured artist at a show themed based around his artistry.
Like he's the face of it.
Exactly.
He's gonna get
the
vast majority of
true. But it's a little misguided.
It's more than just his hands in it.
It's a little bit misguided for that reason. But also I've actually been to an Astroworld show before. I went in 2019.
Okay.
Back when the album first came out, because the name of the show is based off of his album, his latest album. So I've actually been in the Travis Scott atmosphere. So I also have that background to kind of pull from when it comes to this kind of thing, as well as I've been to quite a few concerts in my lifetime, enough to know how these things go and how people behave, like the culture of concert goers, which is not specific to genres, because a lot of people were trying to. I seen a couple of posts floating around like, rock fans, this rap fans. It's not that, So stop. We've had plenty of,
because it happens on both sides anyway.
We've had plenty of these type of situations happen before, not just in a Travis Scott environment, but in other artist environments.
Yes,
and
exceedingly so.
The sheer size of the event matters. The medium in which the event was held. It was held outdoors. That matters too. So like I think that a lot of stuff is getting lost in the sauce of what this really just boils down to. And I think this is bigger than Travis Scott.
I think it is too, because one thing is, like you said, we both have some measure of experience in terms of being involved in different events and being involved in different shows. And I can be the first to say, and this is not, and don't get me wrong, this is not me caping for Travis Scott at all or saying, oh, well, y'all should leave him alone. No, you still have some measure of complicity when it comes to anything you get involved with, if not because of the fact that you agreed to be involved with it. You know what I'm saying? You always have that.
Facts.
But the simple fact is, yes, it's more than just his hands in an event. And in most events, especially mainstream ones, it's way more hands in the pot than anybody will ever see. They only see the headliner and maybe the first few performers. You don't know who's deciding all of these things.
Well, that's my thing. Like, if you know how the structure of how these events work, it's just like what you just said. Travis Scott's the face of the event.
Yeah.
Like, Travis Scott doesn't, like, I know people see his name, see that it's named after his moniker, and they think like he runs the show. Like, it's a very short-sighted viewpoint of how people think these things go. Like, there are promoters, there are the people who own the venue. Like, there's a whole set of people who more so are responsible for what this type of thing that happened at the show is. I know many people are gonna say, well, other people show concern, and it's not even that. Like, it goes further beyond that.
Yeah.
Furthermore, 50,000
it's a point
people,
to be made, though.
It's a weak point. The reason why it's a weak point is because, one, like, the sheer volume of that many people in an open space, you are not very, there's only a certain level of mindfulness you can have for what is going on within a group of that many people.
True.
If you ain't ever been in a space where there's that many people, it don't even have to be a concert. If you ain't ever been to a live sporting event, like, if you've never been in a space where some type of chaos broke out, whether it was people fighting, whatever the hell, you really don't know, like, how, like, the logistics of how stuff like that plays out. A lot of times you're not very mindful of what actually truly is going on.
Right.
And, you know, there may be an isolated situation here or there, but that doesn't account for the sum of the parts. What I'm simply saying is, if you only look at this as a Travis Scott issue, he's the problem, he should be canceled, you're not really looking at this logically.
And the thing about it is look, here's my thing. If you're going to cancel him for this, which I could see, because I think me and you kind of differ on opinion with this, but I can see why, because there are instances where this man has egged on the audience to do things that they should not do. And by that, I mean, like, literally egged them on to either rush the stage, actually got, goaded one of the attendees of a show to hold on. Yeah. Okay, sorry for that. Go ahead and say what. Yeah, it might be. I don't know what's going on.
I think, sure, people can influence, do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with the culture of. I've already been to one of his shows. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, when we talk about these things, right? The reality of the situation is, one, to cancel a Travis Scott does not end things to happen. I know for a lot of people, this is the first thing of this caliber that they've ever seen, heard. And this is the most extreme.
He's the face of it, though, and that's the thing.
I think he's become synonymous with a certain type of fan and culture. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's the face. What I will say is he's what.
Well, they're trying to make him the face. That's
sure. They're trying to make him the poster child, and that's cool. Yeah. But once again, for whatever sake or whatever agenda or whatever politics you want to put into it, the reality of it is, though, is that there's other parts at play when it comes to these situations, and the reason why it matters is because these things happen outside of Travis Scott events.
Right.
Continue to happen.
Right.
Canceling the artist doesn't solve the problem.
It really doesn't. And see, the biggest thing about it is getting to the root. Like, what the root of the problem is, yes, should his antics of encouraging audience members to do crazy things or insane things, I was having problems hearing, but should those things stop? Yes, absolutely. But should it also be addressed? Okay, we're back up. Like, the bars are back up. Should it also be addressed that the management, the people who are behind these shows, the people who are giving him the A-OK and the approval to have these things to happen, should they be more vigilant? Should they be more on the ball about these things? Absolutely.
Well, they should be, but not only, I'm not even just looking at it from we choose you to be our person for the show. Because in that case, it would be like a live or anybody like that.
Well, the thing is, there's other ways, because there's other ways they could do it without having 50,000 people out in front, or really what was like 100,000 people apparently out there. Because like, why are you having something like that when we just are, depending on your opinion, in the midst of or just got out of a pandemic?
Well, there's that.
Why on God's green earth do you have 50,000 people anywhere in a enclosed space?
There's that. That's a thing I'm thinking. But here's another thing that I'm thinking.
Because that's insanity right there.
Here's the other thing I'm thinking. There is we have barricades, we have ways to limit people's access to things and other people. So things from a solution standpoint, a logical canceling an artist to me ain't it. It's a culture in general. Case studies well, because consistency and the awareness of the situation. You don't know if you aren't aware of something, you aren't completely aware. So, if you purposely do it and they fall on ill because of that, you definitely look at that. You influenced this, you probably caused this to happen. That's more of a direct line of thinking, and that's a direct proof of concept. When something just happens there in the midst of it, that's a bit different. It matters just as the fact that someone asks whether they do this thing or do this thing. Because maybe in the latter, where he doesn't do it, it might have been because he realized that that's something to be done that it shouldn't have did in the past. I know it's very easy for us to place blame and try and pull that, but also like just look at all the parties are involved. Like I'll never forget. I think it's called E2 correctly.
Okay.
Y'all can Google this, look this up. There was this massacre that happened in Chicago back in the early 2000s. It was either 2001 or 2002. I think it was called E2.
Okay.
It was night where basically I don't like the situation, but I'm paraphrasing here. Sauce ensued in the club, and it resulted to people going crazy, people getting scared and run towards the door. I think that and everybody a lot of that night to death. And this reminds me of that in that, well, the situation was way more people in the double digits. But in those types of environments and situations,
yeah, and
there's more than one measure put in place or supposed to be put in place for these type of things to not happen.
Right.
So when we go to blame and stuff,
right,
we need to call out everybody.
Absolutely.
And honestly, whether you like it or not, using Travis as the example for all of the accountability does not change the dynamic and potential of it to happen. Because as much as folk want to hold Travis Scott accountable, he's not the accountable piece that needs to, he's not where the accountability needs to solely rest, because simply canceling him or removing him from the equation, once again, does not stop this from happening. So we need to be mindful of where we're trying to place the blame or accountability at. At least if we're going to place the blame somewhere, place it in an area to which something can be proactively done that isn't a one-off solution or a band-aid. Basically, you know, I don't know it to be confirmed, but Travis is supposed to be paying for, you know,
like the
victims and stuff like that. And that's cool. That's amazing. For the most part, besides making a statement or apology, which y'all won't accept regardless, because that's just how it is. When you've got someone stolen something, and it is unforgivable.
Because I mean, what apology can you really render for somebody experiencing a fatality?
Once you put that label on something, it becomes unexcusable by default. People want to act like it don't, but it stays that way. It's going to be forever attached to him. He could have paid for everybody, dead or alive. He would still be held to the same thing.
It's just not, and it's just one of those things where it's going to be a stain on his it's going to be a stain on his thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, is going to come on him really bad.
I think this also leaves space for, at a later date, us to have a conversation about cultural dynamics, generational dynamics, more so specifically as they relate to culture. Meaning whether you're a black millennial versus a black Gen Z versus a black baby boomer versus a black Generation X. Because there are a lot of dynamics that most of us think about every day that play into why people do the things they do. Sociology, however, political correctness. There's a lot of those kind of dynamics that play into these situations too.
And I mean, the strangest thing about it, the strangest thing about it is, of course, a lot of the esoterical things that have been going on in the midst of it. That's what's really made it like stick out so much. Because that's what's like, to be honest, at least what I've noticed is that the imagery, the promotion, a lot of the correlational things that occurred both before and after it happened and everything. Bigger. The fact, like, we can just key in on something really just hard to know, give attention to. Something that really, you know, more of an issue to make his look that much worse.
I'm very mindful and I'm very careful about those kind of, like, when it comes to like symbolism, coincidence, I'm very mindful to not be lost in the weeds and stuff like that, because I think people do. Talking about popular opinion, but I'm only do after something like this happens is prevent it from happening again. Now there might be bunches of different, bunch of different coincidences. Oh, things you might have not paid attention to. Get that. But outside that, I think when we have discussions, be mindful and logical first, and then we can kind of like go back and unpack certain things. Because if you point out something, I feel like it has to be useful to the point or the solution that we're trying to get to. Otherwise, like, hey, for your information, or hey, did you know? And I'm just kind of, I'm kind of off that when we talk about like very serious situations, especially death. Right. And that's where I stand.
It's just not that. It's just not a healthy way of looking at it. It's really not a healthy way of looking at it, because it creates more problems than it solves.
It creates more problems. It creates a lot of what ifism or other conspiracy theories and juxtaposing people like this to try and make that otherwise don't make sense.
Right.
Newsflash, sometimes things don't make sense, but we have to actually do the critical thinking to get there.
When it's like that because some things do, some stuff you can't, because some are just a little too weird.
Some things between relevant, it was not. Also, what I refer to as spookism, kind of like conspiracy, but basically, people get very euphoric about it.
I get that.
To the point where even that's not healthy.
Right.
It's basically like the super or the super hotep. And it gets to a point where it's like, yo, like we done examined 1,000 other coincidences, dinos. Oh, you might have not caught this, but yet the principal issue is still not proactively being worked on and solved. Right. I'm not even necessarily as much sticking up for Travis Scott as I'm saying like we need to talk about more to this, and there's more people that matter in this discussion to where I don't think that Travis was part of it.
Well, he's the only part of it.
No, we said this.
Yeah, and that's the main, is that he's not the only thing. Like, I think people have a central for issues, and that creates a host of issues when you do begin to where what we do.
And also we spookism.
Why you're saying this,
right? Why we on the spookism? Is because things going on in the climate of the world now. Bear with me and me. You see right now that's also matters viral, but house because Kenosha, Wisconsin. Response, chaos out of I'm using to say but I think that when it comes to things really done, the energy that I feel has been given to that situation, I would loved it if America gave it to Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about everybody who lives, regardless of color, race,
should have feel the type.
I want y'all, after y'all get done with this, because this has already been going on for like now. I want y'all to take that energy, hopefully not before it's too late, and redirect that to what's going on with this trial and everything with this right now, because this is definitely an example of someone having an ulterior motive to do something and carrying out with that action. This is something premeditated more so, whereas the Travis thing is a travesty. I'm pretty sure he didn't plan. Need to be mindful of when we talk about these things. Do people have the intent to do these things?
Yeah.
You know, is this their goal?
Is this something that they're really intending to do, like to cause strife or to cause troubles for people and things of that nature? I think it's definitely something that's worth looking into.
Now, if you of the opinion that he's on something and that's what it is or what have you,
I mean,
then that's your opinion and you good for it.
I feel like
power to you.
Look, it's fair to have that as an opinion. I don't see why it would be unfair to have that as an opinion. I'm kind of far away, but
yeah,
we trying to figure our lives out right now.
I'm more so looking at, like I said, I'm more so looking at the venue space and the people who run that. I'm also looking at the promoters, those who are in charge of security and those kind of things.
Right.
And also just looking at how do we change the infrastructure.
And see, those
are the things that I'm more interested in.
The biggest thing about that is actually the fact, like when you really consider that, there was no way for them to have enough paramedics, enough security, and enough available personnel to help those people when you have a sheer amount of crowd, like people, that numbers in the tens of thousands or above. You only got so many medical personnel or security that can be there. There's only so many things that you can do whenever you got a crowd that's the size of a mid-sized town. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I say, I look at structural things, because one of the first things I thought about was, okay, that we can, and I mean, this technically already exists, barricades already exist.
Yeah.
Where, and mind you, the concerts, I done been to sports games, I done been to wrestling events,
right?
You name it. Okay. And
this ain't your first rodeo, basically.
No, nowhere near. And I've been in open spaces as well as closed spaces and big, large crowds.
Right.
And the thing is that, most venues have seats and they're enclosed. And then there are ones that are outdoors. Outdoors, what can we do? We can have barricades outdoors. They typically, in most environments, there's some type of setup like that, to where people can't even get trampled on in the traditional sense of people just rushing and knocking people down, because they are prevented. See, that's how my brain is thinking. I'm thinking of like, how do we?
Or at least hopefully not. You know what I mean?
Because we can't depend on human nature.
Yeah.
Because human nature is gonna do what human nature is gonna do, which is why this ain't the last time this is gonna happen. This ain't the first time. There were plenty of concerts in the 80s and the 90s where people were falling out, dying, getting trampled. Like, this ain't the first of this. If you think otherwise, look it up. If you think this is the worst, that doesn't change anything. Let's not be we want to argue about the worst type of politics. Let's not do that. No. Because if it's a tragedy if 4 people die, it should still be a tragedy if 8 people die. And we shouldn't be looking at it, well, this one was safer because only 4 people died. No.
Right. It's still a tragedy.
Still a tragedy. And it's still something we want to prevent. So we have to look at preventative measures we have to give preventative measures the energy we give blaming folk, because folk gonna get sued and everything else anyway. Those things are gonna happen. Somebody dies, people typically just die. Like typically people don't get rescued before they die, especially in something that happens split second in a moment.
And I mean, that's just a big thing about it. Sorry, I'm setting up a separate screen so that way, at least if something happens, y'all can still see us. I'm gonna have this. Where do I want this? I guess I just set it like a half screen. No, that's not gonna work.
If you're gonna do it, make it small so that way it's not.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do that. Yeah,
but yeah, you know, it's just like, yo, what are we doing here?
Right. And I mean, that's just it just but about it. So 50,000, 100,000 pounds. I don't think it's like I get my recognition. My main thing is that it's the sheer fact of it being something that is just not serviceable. It's not serviceable.
Right. It's too many people. It's not something that's easily controllable because it just isn't about shit time. I mean, I don't think change something is 100,000. If anything, that just reinforces what I'm saying.
YouTube, something that is just we're trying to keep it running on two different ones. All right, there we go.
But this 50,000 and 100,000, actually, if it's 100,000, even worse. And that's my point. Like the number doesn't really matter because like not focus on what's actually happening.
Right.
Because that's the problem.
Right.
How many people are there? What happened to people there?
Yeah.
That's what I'm, like I said, that's what I'm
like. God. Well, I mean, no. But you know what I'm saying. But you know what I'm saying. It's one of those things where it just is a big like. Yeah, we can argue that's terrible. Yes, we can argue. The main idea, the main concept, the main issue is that you cannot have concerts that your size and think that they can be managed by. It's happened through history way before you, I were. Let's stop.
What's happened to everybody? There's a lot more of these types of shit happen.
All the time. Look, and my thing is, they had
all of this happens.
Look, they had Hell's Angels. They had hired Hell's Angels for Woodstock. And you saw how well that went exceeding. Like, yeah, it was great. But for real, it's insanity. But that's the only thing is what you're dealing with when it comes to the concert of any size. Even I've seen even ones that were local. If they're poorly managed, I've said this so many times. If they're poorly managed, you're going to have poor performance whenever it's a turn. You're going to have people act like they have good sense. Yeah, concerts themselves. And look, and this is my thing. Just from the experiences I've had with music events, with concerts, if you will, or whatever you want to call them, whenever you have poor management, it's going to cause problems for your event. Whenever you have people on the mic acting stupid, saying stuff they got nothing to say, or the DJ acting up, or anybody who has sway over the crowd acting up, and there is no management, there is nobody sitting there saying, like, managing the event, being like, hey, we need to get this under control. We need to get this under control. You're going to have problems with folks like, I've seen that in a crowd of 20 people, seen it in a crowd of 50 to 100 people, and obviously we saw it in a crowd of 50 to 100,000 people.
every time that you have mismanagement cause issues. Every concert that every event that I've been to, and everything on scale, because you know, sometimes the energy is different in certain ones. But every event that I've been to where everything is managed properly, it didn't matter how good people acted accordingly. Did you have outliers who were stupid? You do. But is it easier to manage? Yes. You know why? Because everybody else doesn't try to act idiot along with you know the other people. It's not one of those things. It's not one of those. When you put the energy out there to be like, okay, it's a free for all. Go rush the security. Guess what? Folks are going to do that. And then when something actually messed up happens, they're going to be slower to react because they're going to be used to. They're going to be accustomed to. Unfortunately, we shouldn't have to treat people like little kids when it comes to dealing with things like this, but we have to. Unfortunately, we have to. That's all we'll have. That little kids who need that type of management to where they have to understand that it's an area of work. When people understand that there's an atmosphere of order, things work better. Because you can have the same situation at any concert. Any concert, and the deciding factor isn't the genre. The deciding factor is who's on the mic. The deciding factor is who's on stage and who's headlining. The deciding factor is how they act, how they conduct business, how things are done during the concert. If this is an annual event, it's like the Astroworld Festival, how things are done annually. The people who are your return, you know, concert goers have a certain expectation of how things are going to go. Yes or no? You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, if you have a carry a precedent where you go to this concert, we about to actively run around and break stuff. You can knock people over if you want to. You can tackle them if you want to. No one gets grabbed. Okay, I guess what's going to happen? They're going to do that. If you set a precedent with your shows where, okay, yeah, we can turn up, we can have fun, but we don't need anybody getting hurt. Don't be acting the donkey or you get thrown out. Guess what? You're gonna have a couple outliers, yes, but it's not gonna happen every time. It's not gonna become a repeat offense. It's not gonna become a pattern. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest thing for me. And that it shouldn't be where there's a pattern of misconduct. Because then when there's a situation where you don't do it, no one cares. No one cares.
I think for me, I'm glad we can have these discussions and they not so much feelings that we have let go like more definite things that need to be considered, the more realistic things that need to be considered in these kind of situations. Right. Because, you know, that's one reason why I'm glad it wasn't even on my mind last week. And why we didn't talk about it when everybody else did everything, not because we were trying to get everything, but more or less because we just wasn't as moved by what it was. So for the sake of having a constructive discussion, like I said, if anything, this is where you're supposed to have people build organizations, you know, and stuff that institutional organizations that see to it that there's a standard to concert experience. Right. See to it that there's a level of security, safety, protocol, those things. What's up, John? If anything, that's the type of stuff that you obviously lost in these kind of situations. Just like the Boston shooting, stuff like that. When these types of things happen, what should be going on is people literally sit and say, like, okay, how can we fix this? Yeah, prevent this from happening. And then what the people are supposed to do is give suggestions to how to do that. Right.
Don Nelson just wanted to
Man, what's up? Before.
We appreciate you being on here. Hopefully everything looks good.
And
been having some issues. But he said Travis was wrong. And I will say I do agree with that particular part in that
I'd have to review the footage for this particular one because I haven't done that. So I'll be fair about that.
But in the footage that I have seen of other shows and other events and other things where he's taking part and he's at the helm, he has encouraged. It's not even so much that he didn't try to shut down the chaos that was already happening. It's that he's encouraged it in certain cases. And that part can't be ignored because while yes, he is not the only part of the system that creates the show, he is the vote, he is the voice of something. And when you're the voice of something, you have a thing called influence. When you have influence over people, especially when they're hyped up, drunk, high, whatever you want, or just turn. Look, you've seen it in shows, you've been in events. When you command an audience, you truly do that. You command. You can get people to stand up, sit down, move forward, move back, if you really have that much power over that audience at that moment, in that heightened moment. You can get folks to do some straight up stupid stuff. Now, that's not saying that's not ridding them or excusing them of having their own autonomy to do what they need to do, but it's also the fact that there is responsibility on the artist, on the person with the mic, to be able to act accordingly and make certain things do still succeed in the orderly fashion. You can get turned and still act in the orderly fashion, you know what I'm saying? And that's my only issue with Travis in this case, is that he didn't really do enough or really respond in a way that would have shown where, okay, at least try. Because then we would have like got over that.
Here's my I'm not agreeing. I'm not saying that he isn't wrong for anything.
Right.
That's not really my opinion.
And I don't think it is.
I just don't think holding into the fire is the correct way to solve the problem. Because I don't think that solves the problem. And for me, that's not the most constructive way to go about it.
No.
But where I'm also was just saying is, what was he supposed to do? Like, how do you stop that happening?
Really, and honestly, a lot of things in this particular case, there's not a whole lot you can do from where you're standing. You can try to call attention to it because that has happened with other artists. But what I'm gonna say is, and this is just how I say it, this is why I've been continuing this point, is that you have to establish a system of order and, of order and structure in the show before it even happens. Because you're right. Once it occurs, once the show is started, and the precedent is set, it's very hard.
It's not even that it's very hard to make.
Yeah. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, he should have did. No.
Well, that's what I'm not saying.
No, I'm just saying, like, that doesn't really make sense because that assumes that he knows this is gonna happen before it happens, which is foolish.
But to be fair, when you have a crowd that big, when you have a crowd of that sheer size, there are certain expectations for some things. Reason being,
even if that's the case,
like, because it's happened enough to where you can at least be like, okay, maybe we should do something about crowd control. Because first off, why are you having a concert that big? No, it's still a thing. But that's why you're having a concert that big when it's been proven historically that concerts of that sheer size usually lead to some measure of tragedy.
But see, this goes back to my point. Like, if all you care about is whether you feel Travis Scott is right or wrong, you're not thinking in a way that invokes solutions to these issues.
Right.
That's my problem with it. It's not a election. It's not just like some people feel it's not enough.
It's like it's not just like some people feel he didn't do You can argue that you didn't do enough. I don't care. You do enough. I'm gonna argue with you that the promote
security didn't do enough. The venue didn't do enough.
Oh God.
the venue didn't the artists don't have the same role.
It's different. It's not the same. It's not like it's his.
It's not like
It's not his house. It's not his house here. Let's just put it there. It's more like, yo, this is the Airbnb. Yeah. We don't own none of this shit in here. I asked y'all. I hope y'all act like y'all got some sense. Yeah.
Like y'all got some.
It's coming out of context, you know, please act for it.
Bro, like,
And I agree with you.
I just hope that happens. That's why I'm stuck on that, because it makes sense to us when we look back at the situation, like, he should have did that.
Well, we're looking at it in hindsight.
Right. You can even put yourself in a situation to say
Put yourself in that situation.
that also happened to me. She was conscious enough to know what was going on, that was going to happen, so on. There's so many things that would have had to take.
And I think the biggest thing really it stops.
Yes, and because
that is something out of all the things you truly can't control when we're talking about. That is something he actually can control.
when you when he say like, hey, he can do that. And he can do that.
He can do that.
Now, what results
Is whatever it's going to be.
is whatever it's going to be. Because also, just because you get the microphone, people can hear him, doesn't mean he says something
And they
are going to do. As much as there is influence, there's the other part of it is that not everybody is going to conform to whatever. Once people get out of control, they are out of control.
And
If you never had control of 100,000 motherfuckers in this, please think about that.
Right.
Don't just say everybody was playing.
yeah.
100,000 people.
Here's my thing. Once you get over 100 people, that's hard to ratio anyway. So, because we've been in situations like that, we've had a whole packed building full of people, and it's hard, and yes, I will agree, it's hard to stop.
Live
Yeah,
Nation.
well, they have responsibility over that because they say that. No, they have responsibility over that. I'm
They
saying,
probably get sued like
Yeah.
everybody else too.
everybody gets, just like everybody gets a piece of the pie from watching the ticket sales, they get a piece of pie of land.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, I would really say, in a lot of ways, the venue is the most simplistic. Because of the simple fact that you know what they could have did, bro, to see dollars.
Yes.
They could have said no.
I know y'all think
They could have
Travis
said
Scott,
no.
like people are saying Travis Scott could have ended the show. No. You know who actually could have ended the show?
And you could end the show, they literally cut off everything.
Yeah.
12 motherfuckers they had to leave.
Yeah.
Like, they do that.
They tell Travis Scott, like, yo, we cutting your mic off.
They've done it.
Yes.
Like, it's one thing to tell the artist, like, hey,
Please stop. It's a whole other thing for them to be like, oh, yeah, shit, like, this is like, cancel the shit. Y'all have to leave. Y'all getting arrested.
Yeah.
Like, we call them the cops.
The cops are already here waiting for you outside.
Shit.
They can do that.
They do that. And that's what I'm saying, bro. I'm cool with people like Travis Scott.
so as long as y'all blaming everybody, y'all keeping the same, because
We have to keep that same
Right.
for everybody.
Right.
Right.
But I'm going really you know that?
Is if Travis Scott has a show after this,
There
and
you
drops
go.
the ball. If this does make him
Really think about it. Yeah.
or reconsider his whole angle,
That's
this is
what's
different.
That's what's going on.
Because I need y'all to think about what y'all asked.
Right.
If you're a Travis Scott fan, you especially know what you asked.
So let me also speak as a Travis Scott fan, because there will be that bias. I don't have a
Right.
problem.
You can still present a logical point with bias in mind thinking.
Well, you got
Here's the thing. After this, Travis has marketed himself in a way.
Yeah.
He's lit. It's lit.
right,
The Rangers.
right.
Like the whole turn up. He was one of the people that helped push that to the next level.
Especially for
Especially
Gen Z.
Yeah, because most of these people,
And I ain't even trying to play no ageism or any of that. Most of these people who was at the tennis, and some of them who died, people younger than myself.
Some of them were
young, some of them were older.
10-year-old got hurt.
And why? Is it why? So, you know, there's
Another conversation.
so many different ways to get addressed.
Simply what I'm saying is, if you own the Travis Scott pizza to buy, you can get smoke for the
venue, for the venue coordinators, the label, if you ain't got smoke for the city of Houston,
Right.
because also y'all have to also be about that these events are going on in these cities and stuff. The mayor know about it too. Like the whole city. If you bring us up the rest of these folks,
I'm glad you mentioned that because they actually brought us up and she checked out documentary Dolphins. And she brought up the fact that when it comes to calling the cops in certain areas, especially like Houston, you might get it out to them. And you might get a busy signal or get put on hold or get the answer machine. So when you are doing stuff like that in an area where these things do occur, where it is difficult to get security, where it is seemingly difficult to get medical personnel on hand to deal with all the issues as they go. Like these are things because these type of shows, these type of events, especially an annual one, is something that is planned out throughout the year. So they knew and they all have projected numbers to these things. They know that better. Right. They know it so much better than even what you think Travis got. And here's they got the numbers. They have projected numbers for these things because here's the thing. I'm going to say, look, when you don't have your when you don't have your shit in order, this is what happens. Look, I'm saying that from the perspective of artists that been a part of shows that were orderly in certain cases and were absolutely disorderly in other cases. I've been at shows where I was on the card and the DJ's looking at me like, you don't know who I am, and acting like you don't want to give me money. I've been at shows where everybody's acting a whole dog because they didn't put the artist up too late. They waited till almost 1 o'clock to put anybody up there, and then it turns to 11. They don't want to hear nothing. You have to leave the crowd. Yeah. Look, they had weird techno music playing for 7 straight hours. These people were tired, fatigued, tweaking out. By the time that he's up there or anybody's up there, they halfway gone. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's too late. Yeah, that's really being him in this sense. He's not thinking of it. This coach of this show. He's a little performer until he finally realizes, like, yo, something going on. Yeah, that's how loss of connection can exist in these events. And have a cell phone. They talking about trying to put a TikTok video up. I'm trying to make a phone call, trying to communicate with somebody. Like, that is not, I mean, y'all know, even with technology today, these types of things are not as easy for them to come aboard. So what I'm saying is, if anything, to some stretch of the imagination, I'm gonna fuck it at all. Listen, that had to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's hard.
That whole thing, and it being what it was. The only and the real main thing, a lot of people just be thinking like, oh, he's just gonna drop something bad. But like that going on,
Right.
there might be a record like the fuck.
Right, and you've seen certain artists visibly say that. They'd be like, hold on.
What's going on?
What is going on? What y'all doing? Hey, get your hand.
And I've seen other shows where people do it.
Yeah.
Like whatever I can say. All the other ones I've seen. 100 fucking
thousand and one outside.
But what I will say is that I do agree with you that the venue themselves should have got involved. They have, because that's what I'm saying. Because like I said,
Travis is the artist.
Right. Look, like I said, when there is no organization, when there is no order, when there is no implied order in a show, you will always have problems.
You know what this is also like, but not at the same time. Fucking Fire Fest.
Okay.
The Fire Fest.
Yeah.
Everybody was blaming Ja Rule, right? In reality, you can't blame Ja Rule. So as long as you understand that the people running that dance, not the artists, had so much more of an effect in why that happened the way it did.
Even though he needs some measure of publicity, he does need benefits.
Right? And he understood.
But you should put him on. You should put him on.
Especially if you want to cancel.
You want to cancel.
Right.
You think it's there ain't nothing you can say.
Well, remember that Ariana Grande, they were trying to that moment there for what happened down, what went down in her.
And that's the thing, y'all. These artists don't have as much like
Power.
control.
They're just the person with the mic.
The
Person with the mic.
He could have stopped the show. His show wouldn't have shut him down. Like yo, stop the show in 100,000 capacity crowd or more. You know, it doesn't really matter. Outdoors.
Right. Well, y'all know like shit while they wait.
Oh God!
Immediately is.
And if you did respond to what we're saying, and just continue playing music, continue playing any number of things happen. It would be number. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I get people emotionally.
But I'm just kind of like, yo, okay, this is sad and unfortunate. But like, how many days? 2 weeks or 2? Are we still gonna talk about Travis? When is the conversation going to move solely to the promoters, the venue?
You got a while.
Like,
Because here's my simple fact that
they look like it that way too. Conveniently, it works out for all those other people I mentioned too.
That's why
they're trying to fix it.
That's why they will always plaster somebody's face in the front and call it a headliner. When you are a headliner, you end up retaining sole responsibility for whatever the hell goes down at your
Which is one of the reasons, which is one of the negatives about being a public figure in the first place. And it don't matter if
you are always helping.
It don't matter if you people like us. Or even the Travis Scott.
Right. Look,
The minute you put yourself out to be some type of figure, to represent yourself in public life,
you set yourself up.
you set yourself up to be held to the utmost standard. The minute you do something that is not hurtful, That's it. You can throw away.
No, I hit her, but that's what she said there, but she's not going to fix the Bible. But But yeah, I don't know. But
and y'all, we saw the connection. Due to this 2 weeks in a row, the internet got fixed this more week. Have been doing our watching for the podcast. We're going to be on the location next Sunday.
This is because it's getting to a point where it's just causing too much trouble.
Yeah, and we don't want this to
Tank the experience for y'all.
Thank you y'all for being faithful. Shout out to the people here. We appreciate it.
Shout out to the new viewer. I mean, we appreciate it.
Yes, shout out to the new. Please like, share, subscribe. This is our regular.
We have
plenty of others that are just as good, if not better.
Oh yeah, definitely check it out.
Let me go ahead and post that.
I don't know if you're still with us. That is our link. That's the link. That's the flow code link to everything. That has our audio podcast, which we will be doing an audio podcast about this particular subject, and merch store, everything. So tap in with us. Send us some suggestions of things that you will want to hear talk about. Actually, for those who are still here, those of you who are hanging out, if there's anything that y'all want to talk about next week, please let us know.
Yeah,
Go ahead and drop it in the comments. You don't have to do it now. You can do it now if you want, or you can drop it in the comments.
and please be mindful, y'all. We get all kinds of
And stuff all the time.
so we don't get that. Don't get to y'all.
We
will try to but it might not be next week.
Right. The interesting thing is I do see a thing on here where it says download recordings. So if the stream is up looking too wonky, I'll see if I can download that and see if I can post it. So at least that way you have a good version.
Yeah, so we'll sit out there. But yeah, you know, we talk about my thing is like
I'm solution forward. So I'm just thinking about ways to.
I'm off of
solely blame
whatever. It's really right. It's literally the point of where do we go from here? How does this get better managed? And what do we do about it?
Right. We have to hold everybody
to the fire.
Accountable, not just the artists.
I mean, definitely
the whole thing.
I'm just saying.
Artists can only control so much. There are literally people who have more specific jobs as it relates to why this occurred the way it did. And I need y'all to know that. And with that being said, we need to hold them to the fire the same way we hold the drivers.
Yes.
Because those people, they're the people. If you choose to put all your fault in Travis, those are the people who will get away scot-free in these types.
Those are the people that still protect. Because here's my thing. Here's my thing when it comes to those who are complicit in this. When I look at it, whoever benefited from every single one of those 50 to 100,000 tickets that were sold, and the people that came through even after it was sold out that they allowed to be in, any of those people who allowed these things to transpire to be close to the fire because they will benefit from it. Regardless. And there's somebody who's making a lot more money off of this stuff than Travis ever will.
If a promoter still gets paid, right? Off of something like this happening.
Because they do.
Because nobody was like, no, we should sue them.
Yeah.
Not the artists.
Them. Care about 25 could have all been avoided. Travis's name is on the blame. Yes. But it's the fact or the biggest blame. Yes. But the main that's the problem about big is that that's literally what they are. They're just walking targets. I mean, it's got his big ass head and big ass mouth on there, so yeah, they're playing. But once again,
just take someone who knows and someone who's being a lot of times, a lot of things that occur and end up being problematic. It's partially the artist and partially the venue. I literally had an event at a venue that wouldn't even let us use half the speakers. So the show ended up sounding like crap because they
wouldn't let us use the equipment that's supposed to be used to make sure that everything sounds right. I didn't do anything about it. I just sit there and argue with the dude who was sitting at the mixing board, being like, hey, you turn this up, you do this, and they moved it up an inch. I had no power. Yeah, they collected half the damn money themselves. They're collecting half of what I would have made from the show, but they're pissing on it while it's happening. Yeah, so that's the reason why we're saying, because that can happen to anybody.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not absolving Travis.
No, he needs to get back.
I'm simply saying that we want to look at this from a solution standpoint instead of, oh, this is how I feel, so person standpoint, that we need to hold these other partners accountable. Because they play as much a part, if not more, because they control more of the environment than the artist does, then we should mention those people too. There's a few other things chopping people heads. That's where I'm at.
Look, that's just like every performance Tina Turner had. There's some of them we could probably blame on Ike.
You know, I just watched. I was looking at
what never realized what all was going on in the background. And that's the only problem about being a public figure and a figurehead. That's why if you gotta be in front of people, keep your act together. Because otherwise it's
problems to read later on in life.
It's something I have to remind myself. You know, I can't act a certain way because I got this. I can't act a certain way because somebody knows mine. You know what I mean? And it comes with the territory of it. It's not something we necessarily ask for. It just comes with territory of what we do.
You know what I'm saying? Like if me or him
get caught up in crazy issues, guess what happens to the Black Community Podcast?
That's why
we get canceled. You know.
That's why the minute, putting this on video right now, even though it's messed up video.
Oh Lord.
The minute if I ever receive any real marquee visibility, viralness, celebrity, whatever you want to call it, the minute that happens, probably retire whatever I'm doing. Because I don't like all that.
I mean,
I would literally be playing with my brother. Not really. It's probably a lot that I sit there.
Right.
But it wouldn't be that. No, I gotta be able to still live my comfortable human life.
Yeah.
For that,
I'll fight you.
Right. I need that. If I can't have that, I don't want it. And that's why there's parts of celebrity, fame, and notoriety at our level. Just like, nah.
Yeah.
I need, like, if you don't know me personally,
I do want to chill in the background
and I'm cool with you knowing me as an artist versus knowing me as a person.
Look, and the biggest thing about it is you really realize that people that are in the background, being seen, is usually the ones stacking money in silence, going home with their families.
And I told you about, I literally had somebody basically just like me, because they saw me do a couple of events while I opened for Mark Johnson.
Yeah,
just off the strength.
Just off the strength.
Off the strength.
Because I represented something based solely on that.
They figured you was up there asking for the donations. So
it's very easy to look at. It's very donate. You become like one of the
Absolutely.
You know, like you gonna say, you out there. Yeah. And you gotta deal with what coming.
Yeah.
In case they eat, get out of the kitchen.
Let's just say there was one particular case where that stopped and he punched somebody in the face. Woo! Because I already knew. I'm like, okay, they're gonna look at him like he's just an idiotic junkie. They're gonna look at me and be like, you should control yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how that works.
It happens at every weekend at the bar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you just happen to be there that week, that's the thing they're gonna have nothing out. Yours. Especially if you're not known for engagement in that type of behavior. Oh, they really gonna get you.
I do want to say, I don't really have too much more sense about it.
Yeah.
I feel like we set it up. Honestly, I feel like Eric set it up.
If you want to know the rest, listen to the pod.
Listen to the podcast. Listen to the many other content creators and
Yeah.
artists. Support small businesses. There are various other opinions, different viewpoints, different points of reference, evidence, whatever have you, that people can look at. Bottom line, at least for me, what I take away from this is that I do all this about the condolences to the families of people who were lost in this tragedy. May you all rest in peace to the people who were injured. We will assume, please, to Travis. Take this time to assess the kind of energy that you invoke.
He might be doing that because they said he had to leave his house.
And I'm sure, because I mean,
As he should.
I don't know if it's as he should have been.
Well, I'm saying that for in a situation where something like this occurs and you got a whole lot weighing in your brain, probably not a wise idea to be going out.
For his sake,
It's probably just good to stay in. Yeah, your thoughts and figure out what
take the time to be mindful. Hopefully, one thing that you could do, you know, because I'm not gonna sit here and build like I'm going to say what I am going to say though is take into consideration the effect that you have on people, and with that effect, instead of only focusing on how people enjoy your content, what it is you bring to this world, think about doing that in the most comfortable and safest way possible.
Right.
Talk with other artists.
Because I will say,
Get with other promoters, libraries, and everything. And don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, but hopefully this is an eye-opening situation from you. And hopefully, you know, you can only prevent so much. Hopefully, you don't have any more situations like this or no other artists for that matter.
Right.
I know that this will happen again. We'll be blaming me.
Right.
We'll be holding the next person accountable.
Absolutely.
But once you know better, hopefully you know better now, you choose to do better.
Yes.
You do this shit again. I mean,
It's just like what I told somebody. I said, it's only ignorance until you figure out what the problem is. It's only ignorance until you are made aware.
which is why accountability does matter.
Because once you're made aware of the situation, it ain't ignorance no more.
Wow,
It's
yeah.
stupidity.
You can't use it for more than disobedience. It's like
It's literally ignorance, and you're really just being self-centered.
and Travis, some people already feel who were at that point before. So with that, right?
Now
If anything, make a difference. Yeah, make a difference. Make a difference. Prove wrong. If you're not about that, you prove wrong.
Right.
If you are about that, then you will reap the consequences, whatever comes with that. Right? It's as simple as that. Once again, I'm not exonerating him or being blamed, but I'm saying keep saying you and everybody else that's involved with this situation.
And actually,
Let's not separate that shit.
I hope that whatever your bottom dollar amount is. Yeah, because I'm gonna say it like this. I'm gonna say, start with this part. Oh, now it's good. Oh well, I'm still on your name. Yeah, this is okay. Y'all don't hear it anyway. But in all seriousness, make certain that what you do is worth it. Because look, whatever amount of money you make off of this, some measure of it is going to have to be set aside. Some measure of it is lawsuits, for civil suits, and for some criminal case law issues and crowd control management, all that, because you vowed to get all of it.
Also, to the people who are generally upset with this or want things to change, to the people who really like are, to the people who feel that this is Travis Scott's fault, somebody should pay. I want you to get your picket fence. You're picking someone's account. And I want you to be the change yours. Maybe look into
How to contact
how to contact place, some of your business, you have some of the keys that behind Wisconsin rules. Rally behind the families of the people who are out here trying to seek justice for what this is right now. Share some of those reasons. Don't just be the person saying,
Travis Scott wrong
in the background. You ain't really push the conversation forward.
Right.
In a way, actually change. We're going to blame somebody. Let's follow up after the blame with a solution. Claim that we care. We say we.
Yep.
Otherwise, who really wants to hear you, bitch?
And there it is.
But next week, this shit, it ain't gonna be happening, bro. We're gonna be in a whole different environment till we figure out what's going on over here with our Wi-Fi here in our main studio.
Dude, check out not only the website, but also just check out everything else we got. Because we do have a lot of things coming. The Boundaries Pod is also coming. All are going to get into that, actually. So, because we still have to do the pod on Boundaries.
And of course, we'll be doing the pod about this.
So those will be about 20 to 30 minutes each. Be sure to check those out on a good day. We need to go take a ride and have something to think about. We appreciate you.
Once again,
Talk about the DarksKing Poet. That's DarksKing with G. Ian.
This is Black Minute Podcast, sponsored by Climate Park.
Peace out.
Pow.